And welcome to Imagination Fun Time. I am your host, Brandon Devine. Well, it has been another hot minute since I have seen you folks, or talked to you folks. I don't know if any of you have seen me. If any of you can see me, well, that's creepy. Why can you see me? Why are you hacking my iPad just so you can look at me while I talk about movies and television? That's weird. Couldn't you use that skill to, hack somebody better? You ever seen the movie Hackers? You're gonna hack the planet? I should do an episode about hackers. That'd be a great movie. That's a fun movie. Well, how have you been, folks? It is currently, what day is it? It is November 20th, 2023. The important news out of Hollywood is the SAG strike is now over. There is a deal in place now. People are getting benefits and extra money and other things, and hopefully we will, slow the process of AI a little bit, even though it's sadly inevitable and it's going to take over everything, but that is not important today. It's going to take over, but not today. Maybe in the future, but not today. Today being November 20th, 2023. It's been a hot minute. Let's see, what happened the past couple months? Nothing really exciting. On my end, just average life in Arkansas. I'm just still working on my own life, my stand-up comedy. Gonna audition for another play in a month or so. Working on a job and also figuring out the next place to move to. I keep trying to think, what's the best city to move to better myself as a stand-up comedian. The obvious place would be Texas, Austin, Texas, with all the comedy clubs there and, stuff like that. The problem with Texas is weed. I want easier access to weed. And while Austin, Texas is pretty lax on the weed, the rest of Texas is not. And I don't really think that is very cool. So it's still an option, but who knows? Tulsa maybe, Denver, maybe look back east, Los Angeles, fucking bottom of the list. I'll choose I'll go to Mogadishu before I go back to Los Angeles. But goddamn, LA, goddamn LA. If you're one of my listeners and you're living in Los Angeles, please reconsider your choices. There are better places to live. I'm kidding, sort of. Yeah, other than that, nothing really too exciting. I did recently watch the new Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, in theaters. It was excellent. It was incredibly long, but then again, most Scorsese films are. Most modern Scorsese films are. It was excellent, great job by everybody. De Niro, amazing. DiCaprio, always amazing. I didn't know much about this actress Lily Gladstone before I saw the movie, but she was really fucking good. Really, really good. I guarantee she's gonna get an Oscar nomination this year. So apparently Jimmy Kimmel is gonna be hosting the Academy Awards again, which I think is a fun idea. He's still one of my favorite talk show hosts. He's still a great comedian, guy, but his views some people might not agree with all his political views. I definitely know some people in my life that do not agree with his political views. But that is not what is important. Is that what the Academy Awards are about? Is that what it is about? Is it about politics? Yes, clearly. It is definitely not about movies. It's not about celebrating the art of cinema. It is about politics and potentially career-ending incidents where you slap a comedian in the face for telling a pretty good joke. But that is neither here nor there. I still hope to one day be nominated for an Academy Award. Other than that, I haven't been up to much, so I just still really need to keep doing this podcast more. I've been just trying to push myself to get in the right state of mind to do this, even though, there's nothing more in life I like talking about more than movies and television. maybe some things I do enjoy talking about more, but that is neither here nor there. But today, folks, we are a group, we are people, we are all friends here. We're going to talk about a documentary from the year 1968. And the documentary is called High School. For those of you who are not familiar with this film, or its director, is a documentary called High School. It is directed and produced by a man by the name of Frederick Wiseman. Frederick Wiseman is a legendary documentarian and filmmaker. According to his Wikipedia article, his work is devoted primarily to exploring American institutions of all sorts and levels. High School is actually only his second movie, his second documentary. His first documentary is a legendary documentary called Titty Cut Follies, which explores the innards of a mental institution. This being several years before One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was filmed. But he has so many other documentaries that he makes, continuing even today. Literally, the man is 93. The man is 93 years old, and he's put out 4 movies since the turn of the decade, since 2020. This man continue to put out things. Let me just list a bunch. After High School, which was filmed in 1968, he made Law and Order, 1969, Hospital, 1970, Juvenile Court, 1973, Welfare, 1975, Meat, 1976, Canal Zone, 1977, Model, 1980, The Store, 1983, Blind, 1986, Deaf, 1986, Central Park, 1989, Zoo, 1993, Public Housing, 1997, Domestic Violence, 2001, State Legislator, 2007, Boxing Gym, 2010, National Gallery, 2014, in Jackson Heights, 2015, Monrovia, Indiana, 2018, City Hall, 2020, A Couple, 2022, Other People's Children, which he was just an actor in, apparently. Oh, never mind. So he's only made 3 films in the past 4 years, almost 4 years. For the sake of, the fact I'm going to fuck it up, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last one on his list for this year. But that's not even all, the movies I list, that's not even close to all. That's just a handful of them on his filmography list. This man continually just puts out movies, documentaries, year after year. And probably so many people don't know who he is. I didn't really know who he was until many years ago. When I actually stumbled upon this movie, High School, while reading a book I really like called 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. A book that I have greatly benefited from reading because it opened my mind to so many different kinds of movies. And just what drew me, I just reading through it one day, and I came across a page with this movie. And the picture was just a picture of some high school girls doing in gym class or something like that. And I'm just like, this is interesting. What is this? Because it didn't look like a feature film. It looked like, black and white 16 millimeter documentary. I'm like, oh, cool, a documentary from the 60s in high school. And that's what it literally is about. It's literally, this whole movie is just what it sounds like. It explores the faculty, staff, and students of a high school. Specifically, Northeast High School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, between March and April of 1968. At this point, it's 2023, so at this point, many of our parents and grandparents were either in high, probably more getting to be grandparents at this point. But like many of our parents and grandparents were in school and high school. Maybe not in high school, maybe like some elementary school, middle school, but a lot of our parents and grandparents were in school during this time. So it was really cool to just be able to have like a basically fly on the wall kind of view of what life was like during this time. All Frederick Wiseman did during this is, like I said, this was his second movie. Apparently, I just listened to a podcast recently with him in it, just because I was looking for interviews of him and just like a podcast to listen to with him talking. One of the terms in filmmaking that is accredited towards Frederick Wiseman is the term cinema verite, which is a documentary style of filmmaking, and it's kind of just also known as observational cinema, which is kind of just what it sounds like. Just basically a camera, just like nobody acting for a camera, just a camera just being there and just capturing life. And Frederick Wiseman apparently does not like that term. He does not like that term being associated with him. He does not like credit himself with making that term. But, you know, what can you do? So yeah, this film was shot over 5 weeks between March and April 1968 in Northeast High School in Pennsylvania. And it follows like basically like one of the best things when I watched this documentary for the first time. I had known about this documentary for years, but I didn't watch it for the first time until earlier this year. And it was really cool watching it because it just shows. I was mainly looking for the similarities between my high school experience, which was between the years 2007 and goddamn, if I was in high school in 2017, that would have sucked. I was in high school between 2007 and when I graduated in 2011. So that was 40 plus years after this movie was filmed. And my high school experience was definitely a lot different from most people's, mainly because I was at an all-male boarding school, and not a public high school with girls. But I was just looking, but I did go to public school. I went to public middle school for a couple of years, and I went to elementary school, public elementary school growing up. So it was really cool, like seeing the similarities and differences between between life then and life now. How do teenagers act then? How do teenagers act now? Adults, what are teachers like then? And goddamn, it's really not that different, even from what I could assume from today. Maybe a bit different today, especially with the internet and PC-ness and wokeness and all that kind of stuff in school and other very bad things that also happen in schools in America modern day that we're not going to talk about. But people throughout history, you can go back hundreds of years and you're always going to find similarities between people in civilization decades, centuries ago, and people now. This being one example, I'm hitting my dab pen right now. I have my weed pen with me. And I guarantee, kids, there's one thing high school kids love. High school kids love smoking weed. That's a universal thing almost throughout the world. Like, high school kids, teenagers love smoking weed. And I guarantee kids in 1968, when marijuana was first starting to really become part of, like, a much more bigger staple of teenage life, 1968, for those of you who don't know, was during the heart of the counterculture movement. It is almost a year after the legendary Summer of Love in San Francisco. And it's just, hippie culture was definitely just taking much more effect throughout the country, and throughout the world in general. So I guarantee, like, it'd be. I always think, like, how would hippies back then react to, like, just having, like, this cool pen where I can just hit a cart and get high. So throughout the movie, Frederick, it's not edited together to, like, make it look like it's all one day of like a day of the school. It's just like all this footage, like, shot together, goes from, like, this to this to this to this, and no real narrative order at all. It's just showing life in all sorts of different spectrums. This film is really an amazing insight into the authoritarian and horrific truths about public education in America, because it sucks. For over 100 years now, the American public system has truly proven to be just a complete fucking joke. For example, in this movie, in the documentary, there is a student who is issued a suspension for arguing with a gym teacher about wearing a gym uniform. Now, there's still even a common thing you'll find in public schools even today. That was one thing I was thankful for with boarding school. We did not have gym class because we had school athletics that just counted as our gym class. But I fucking hated changing for gym class. I hated it. It was gross. You put on those disgusting, smelly gym clothes that, like, get washed like 3 times a year, and it's just gross. So I kind of, like, really sided with this student of, like, he just did not want to do it. But issuing a fucking detention is a little bit much. That's a little bit fucking much, dude. I mean, it's suspension. No, it was suspension. He was issued a suspension. It's stupid. Another student in the documentary is issued just a detention after he was falsely accused of goofing off in class, when, in his defense, he is claiming he was just standing up for himself against bullies. Something I can relate to a lot. You're sitting in class, kids are probably, like, throwing shit at you. Maybe the classic, like, spitball through a straw or that kind of shit. And then finally you have enough. You, like, fight back a little bit, and then you end up getting in trouble. And then you try to explain to the teacher, like, they were just fucking with me, and I just had enough, and I just fought back. And the teacher's like, I don't care. You should have told me. I would have helped, and, like, use your word, blah, and just all this bullshit. And so I really felt for this kid when I saw that scene, because it's fucking bullshit. Like, kid looked like he was, been bullied forever. Just looked like a nerd, and I really felt for him, because I was that kid. I'm still that kid, even though I'm 30. So I'm still that fucking nerd, and it's just bullshit. It was just bullshit that, like, they couldn't get. Even back then, it was probably so much worse with how life was, and how, handling bullies was just such a terrible thing to be able to do. Especially back then, I guarantee teachers really did not care back then about bullies. It was all about kids being bullied. And I'm just going off the list. All my notes here are just various scenes throughout the documentary that really interest me. There's a scene of this strict teacher going and inspecting hall passes. Fucking hall passes. Oh my god. I think we had to use those in middle school. Definitely didn't have to use those in boarding school. But, like, a fucking hall pass, dude. Like, that's, like, the worst. It's so weird. Why do you need a hall pass to just go to the bathroom? It's like, what are you, in prison? Well, technically, kind of. You're in school. That's kind of like a prison. So his teacher, he's inspecting students' hall pass, and then, this is 1968. This is still in the age of payphone. This is the age of payphones and, wall phones and stuff like that. Cordless phones didn't exist back then. So, like many places, there was these big, I think they call them payphone banks. There's just, like, all these lines like this big row of payphones that you would talk on, and this teacher's yelling at kids for being on the fucking phone, which like kids can relate to modern day, and with modern day of like teachers taking kids' cell phones, teachers yelling at kids for being on their phone in class or in the hall or shit like that. Again, just another authoritarian move on the part of teachers, for no fucking reason other than the kids aren't listening to them, and the teachers are just trying to get some sort of authority, some sort of power play out of it. Like, I get it if like I get the kids, like on their phone not paying attention in class. That's one thing, but don't fucking take a kid's phone. Don't do that shit. That's bullshit. So there's the scene, like I said earlier, in the book 1,001 Movies to Watch Before You Die. The picture on the page of the book talking about this movie. There's a picture of some girls in gym class, and I watched the scene in the movie, and it's like them doing like calisthenics, which is weird. I don't think modern kids do calisthenics in class. I don't even, even back when I was in gym class, like 20 years ago, I don't remember there being fucking calisthenics. I remember we did line dance. We did square dancing. We did fucking square dancing in gym class. By far one of the weirdest things curriculum lessons you learn in physical education. Hey kids, we're going to teach you one of the gayest dance forms of all time. And I love dance. I was a dancer. I was a tap and jazz dancer for 10 years as a kid. Loved it. Did many, many great, awesome dance recitals. I love dancing. I love Broadway. I love musicals. Dancing is one of the most beautiful art forms on earth. Square dancing is by far like the worst form of dancing. I'm sure there's others, but like goddamn square dancing, oh my god, it was horrifying. Why did we do that? Why did they make us do that? And then I remember one time in middle school, when I was in middle school, Orchard Park Middle School, Orchard Park, New York, by far one of the worst schools in America. I hate that school. Fucking hate it. We did fucking, what's it called? Like Oompa Loompa dance. Yeah. We did the Oompa Loompa dance. I am calling this out. When I was in 7th grade, 2005, 2006, Orchard Park Middle School, Orchard Park, New York, they made us learn the Oompa Loompa dance and do it. Why? Why? There was no reason for it. It was so terribly bad. I hated it. You know what? I need to hit the pen right now. Just thinking about that, like I had horrible memories of that middle school. And now that I'm thinking about it, that might be one of the worst ones. They made us do the Oompa Loompa dance. It was so bad, dude. Alright, so moving on. Another scene is an administrator is talking to a girl that her formal attire for an event is not appropriate because it is too short. From what I know, from certain little facts I know about history, this was definitely a start. The late 60s was definitely a big start of fashion changes, and definitely much more of an acceptable culture of girls wearing a lot shorter and skimpier clothes. Still, this is the 60s, so it's not like terrible, but the mini skirt was becoming a big thing. I do remember reading about that it was around this time that the mini skirt, the mid to late 60s was when that became a very popular thing. But again, this is actually, now that I think about it, I don't know how big of a problem this would be for modern day kids in high school, because you go to like you look at any of these kids going in their prom photos. Any teenagers posting their prom photos on their social media, and I guarantee, like, boys are all dressed in tux, but these girls are probably dressed in like cocktail dresses basically. At this point, I don't think any girls are going in like long flowing gowns anymore. I do not think that is the fashion trend of young people anymore. So at one point he says to her, "This is offensive to the whole class, and that it is important to be part of the majority." He literally says this to a teenage girl. That he's like yelling, that he's like chastising for wanting to wear too short of a dress. I mean, that's just, that's lovely. That's exactly what you need to tell teenagers. Don't have any individualism. Be part of the majority, and do not offend the majority. That's lovely. You know what that is? That is called fucking retardation. That's stupid. Oh my God, that is like one of the worst things you could ever tell a young person, especially impressionable teenagers, to like not be yourself and be like everybody else. That's great. That's lovely. You fucking moron. Guys have to wear a tux. Apparently some of the guys, are required to wear a tuxedo. And the school does not care if you can't afford a tuxedo. It's like it's either you wear one or you don't come to the event, which is the prom, by the way, the senior prom. Which still, I'm against prom, and I'm not gonna get into that because that'll take up too much time on the podcast. But I hate prom. I'm so against it. A young teacher, I had that in quotations. A young teacher teaches her students about poetry by analyzing the music of Simon and Garfunkel. I put that in quotations because at this point in 1968, I don't think anybody other than like somebody at the oldest, maybe like 35, would be willing to try and teach teenagers about Simon and Garfunkel music. And like to modern day young people, to think that the music of Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Mrs. Robinson, Cecilia, and like many great other songs. To think like that was problematic, and that was like, this is like rebel, like hardcore rebel music. I don't think rebel music, but just folk music. But to old people back then, it was just like, oh, these are just drug addicts, and they just want you to get high and like rape people or something. And it's like terrible. So I thought it was really cool seeing that scene of a teacher trying to relate to the younger students, to her students more, by taking the initiative. Like, don't just make the students do what you want. Like, try and find that balance. Like, try to teach the kids by using stuff that they like as well. I think that's a great thing for teachers to do. Another scene I really did enjoy was one of the principals in the school suspends this dude who I wrote down as a looking bully. So probably just like, I think he was just like this tall kid with like a crew cut and just looked like a dumb football player. And the principal suspends this guy for punching another student in the face over an argument. Saying that, that's not how you handle your problems. You can't assault people. You cannot fucking assault people just because you feel offended by something the other person said. I am saying that specifically to several people in the public who have done that to me over recent times, over things I have said. You don't get to do that, people. It is called assault. A girl is brought into the office for bullying another girl. This is a good scene. So this girl and her friends locked some poor girl named Sue in a closet as a prank. Just as a prank. And this girl was claiming to the principal that she and the other girls were just messing around. We're just messing around. It was just innocent fun. And the principal's not having it. The principal's like, no, this girl is not enjoying that. She doesn't view it as a joke. She viewed it as you forced her into a closet and locked her in there like a prisoner. And that's bullshit. Again, as a person, like, that's like again, like one of the common things that you can relate, that students can relate to, both back then in 1968 and to modern day children today, where bullies just like claim to the authorities, aka the teachers and the principals, that like, oh, it was just a joke, we were just messing around. It's like, no, you weren't just messing around, you were being a fucking asshole. Let's see. Another scene. A girl named Arlene is having... Arlene? Anybody named Arlene anymore? Ladies, if you're listening, name your daughter Arlene. Bring back some of these old school names like Ethel, Arlene. I can't really think of other ones. I was trying to make a joke about it. Like, I was trying to make the joke of like some of these names are just kind of weird sounding and totally sound like they're from like the 1930s. But some of them are pretty nice. Peggy Sue. Maybe that's another one. A girl named Arlene is having a discussion of college placement and discussions on what she wants out of college and also how to pay for college. Hey, look at that. Again, another modern day problem mixed in with problems from now 40 plus, 50 plus, maybe 60 years ago. How to pay for college, because college isn't free and college is expensive. We look back, I could go off for so long, I could go off for an entire podcast worth about how rigged and unfair, student loans are to young people, and how it's like one of the worst things that the boomers and Gen X has ever done to young people is student loans. Because I have friends that are never going to get out of student loan debt unless they make millions of dollars. So it's terrifying. And even back in the late 60s, when college was like much, 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 much more affordable than it is today, that doesn't mean everybody can always afford it. Doesn't mean you come from a super well-off family who is able to afford to pay for your college and all that. Even back then, kids had to go and take out loans probably, or just, pay for college through working jobs on the side and stuff like that, which is tough. It's really tough. Another girl is adamant to her parents that she doesn't want to go to her college. And her father is sitting there with her in the scene and is very disappointed that she doesn't want to go. Again, that is another important scene. It's a great important scene that modern day children, teenagers can relate to. Which I think is just such an important thing that we need to tell teenagers. We need to tell young people, hey, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go. It's fun for sure. I think that is much more the bigger reason that a lot of more people go to college than don't, is because it looks fun, and not always because you can, for educational reasons. But goddamn, his father was just so disappointed in his daughter, and I was just kind of clapping, yay, good for you. Stand up to him, tell him no. And hopefully, the father, forgave his daughter for not doing that, because it's just stupid to be disappointed because his daughter is making her own choices of no, I don't want to go to college. I want to go do other things. This is 1968. And for those of you who don't know, a very big historical event of that year was the very infamous 68 Democratic Convention in Chicago, which I guarantee, good chance, maybe some of the students at the school, or even the students depicted in the film itself, went to Chicago that summer. A few months after this movie was filmed, and participated in that. Let's see, what else we got? The teachers and adults discussed that young people are being given everything and that no one wants to work hard anymore. Where have we heard that one before? Maybe from all of our parents every day? Maybe every single time someone over the age of 50 looks at young people and sees, them working, a minimum wage job and not having, a 5-bedroom, 2-car, $100,000 a year salary job at the age of 30, thinking, these young people don't want to do anything these days. When I was their age, I was so ahead of my time, and I am so fucking snooty, and I'm a bitch. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. It's fucking ridiculous. There's one thing I can say is, I could totally argue, these people young people back then had definitely a much better work-wise advantage of, being able to maybe afford a house just doing, not going to college and stuff like that. You could still be able to get a job and afford, a house and shit like that. Not today. Not in today's economy. Not in today's housing crisis. Thank you, boomers. Fucking assholes. Let's see, what else? A teacher talks to his students about labor unions, and another talks to his about the wealth gap in American society. That is a great thing for a lot of teachers to do. I don't know if, I had teachers at boarding school that would talk to us about real life stuff like that, and talk to us about the real world and stuff in our society, like labor unions and wealth gaps, etc. But it goes on to say that the comfort level of the average American family of 4 in 1968, according to the Department of Labor, is $9,000, which is the equivalent of today being $75,000. So think about that. $75,000 a year. That is the equivalent of $9,000 in 1968. It's insane and weird to think about how far the dollar has gone since then and how almost worthless it's going to be at some point. A teacher talks about race relations between black and white people by asking students if they would join a club based on black and white membership numbers. One student wearing round Lenin-like sunglasses. That's something. So yeah, that was an important scene. I thought that was a really interesting scene to see. Just talking about, 1968. I cannot remember at this point if Martin Luther King had been shot. It was around this time. But, this is during the Civil Rights Movement in America. So race relations was a very, very prevalent part of society back then. And so, again, I think that's a great topic to discuss with your students about, learning about how to make a better society. Talk about race relations. Talk about the negative and positive aspects on both sides. We can't learn. That's how we learn, is through communication. Communication is the only way we're going to build a better society. One student wearing round Lenin-like sunglasses rants in class about how the system of the school is complete bullshit, that the education of the school is a joke and out of touch with the modern world. He advocates for talking about how to better change society instead of talking about films. Now, I don't know about that. While I do really want a better society, if you're listening to this podcast, then you clearly know I really enjoy talking about films. And I am very for talking about films. And I truly believe that, if people truly look at films a little bit better, they might be able to change society a little bit, but that is neither here nor there. Um, so, yeah. Where was I with this? I don't know. I'm still really high, folks. Okay. So, the final part of the movie, one of the final scenes in the movie, is during a school assembly. School principal is reading aloud a letter from a former student who is now at this point serving as a soldier over in Vietnam. It's 1968. We are well into the Vietnam War. And this student is basically just, not in a way, it doesn't sound like he's giving up, but is basically just very unenthusiastic, and it's just like basically just a body doing a mission, in a lot of ways. So, yeah, it was a very somber, it's not as somber as it sounds like, but just like when you really think about the message, like if you hear this guy talking, reading the letter, it's not very good. It is, and it's a great way to end the movie. It really is a great way to end the movie. Just hearing, like, because definitely, at this point, a lot of people, when you're graduating high school at this point, in 1968, 1969, 1967, 66, 65, 70, 71, there's a really good chance that you're going to graduate and then you're going to be shipped over to Nam, man. And goddamn, always to me, like, that is by far the scariest war I have ever seen. It is like the worst fucking war that we have ever been part of as this country, is Vietnam. Well, folks, that's all I really have to say about that. I really enjoyed this film. It was really interesting. And also, this marks my 20th podcast. It has taken me a few years to get to this point, and I'm still going to keep going. But thank you for listening. If you have listened to all my podcasts up until this point, honestly, I really thank you. If I don't know who you are, it really means so much that you continue to listen to my stuff, and I'm going to continue to do more. If you have not seen this documentary, High School, please go watch it. It is a really great documentary. So thank you, and have a great day.